Here's something most people completely miss about hair loss and thinning hair. Sometimes it's not that you're taking the wrong nutrient, it's that you're taking the right nutrient in the wrong form. And one of the biggest examples of this is zinc. A lot of people are taking zinc for their hair, for their skin, for their immune system, for their hormones, and they're still not seeing the result they expected. They assume zinc doesn't work. But the real issue may not be zinc itself. The real issue may be absorption, because if zinc doesn't get absorbed efficiently, it's not going to get delivered deeply into the tissues that need it most, including the scalp, the follicle environment, the sebaceous glands, and the cells involved in hair growth cycling. And this is where zinc picolinate stands out. Today, I want to break down why zinc picolinate may outperform many other forms of zinc when it comes to deep follicle nutrient absorption efficiency, why that matters for thinning hair, and why this could be one of the missing pieces if you've been trying to support stronger, thicker, healthier hair naturally. Now let's start with a simple truth. Hair follicles are among the most metabolically active mini organs in the body. They are not passive structures. They are constantly cycling through phases of growth, rest, shedding, repair, and regeneration. And to do that efficiently, they need a steady supply of nutrients, oxygen, minerals, and hormonal balance. If even one important nutrient is low or not getting into the tissue properly, the follicle can start to slow down. And zinc is one of those critical nutrients. Zinc is involved in hundreds of enzymatic reactions in the body. It helps regulate inflammation, tissue repair, immune signaling, hormone balance, oil gland function, protein synthesis, cell division, and even DNA repair. Think about how important that is for a hair follicle. Hair is built from rapidly dividing cells. If those cells don't have the raw materials and the enzyme support they need, they simply cannot perform at their best. So zinc is not just a bonus mineral for hair. It's foundational. And yet, a lot of people are functionally low in zinc, even if they think they're getting enough. Why? Because there's a huge difference between consuming zinc and actually absorb zinc. That is a very important distinction. Just because something is listed on a supplement label does not mean your body is using it efficiently. And this is where many people get misled. They buy a generic zinc supplement. They take it for a while, and then they wonder why nothing changes with their scalp, their hair texture, their shedding, or even their skin. The answer may come down to bioavailability. Bioavailability simply means how much of that nutrient can your body actually absorb and utilize? That's the real question, not what's on the label, not what's in the capsule. What matters is what actually gets into the bloodstream, into the cells, and into the tissues. And when it comes to zinc, not all forms behave the same way. Some forms are harder to absorb. Some may compete more aggressively with other minerals. Some may irritate the stomach, and some may pass through the digestive system with much less efficiency than people realize. Zinc picolinate is different because it is zinc bound to picolinic acid. Now this matters because picolinic acid is a compound the body naturally produces. and it plays a role in helping transport certain minerals, especially zinc, across the intestinal wall. That means zinc picolinate may have an absorption advantage. In other words, it may be better at actually getting into your system rather than just passing through your digestive tract. And if your goal is to nourish the follicle deeply, that distinction becomes extremely important because hair follicles don't care what you swallowed. They care what actually arrived. That is the key. A lot of hair issues are not always caused by a complete deficiency on paper. Sometimes it's a delivery problem. The nutrient is present in the diet, but it's not reaching the tissue efficiently enough. That's especially important if you've had digestive issues. Low stomach acid, chronic stress, poor gut health, blood sugar issues, or a history of inflammation. All of those can interfere with mineral absorption, and zinc is one of the minerals that often gets affected. Let's talk about low stomach acid for a second, because this is a big hidden issue. A lot of people think acid reflux means they have too much acid, but very often they actually have too little stomach acid. And when stomach acid is low, you don't break down food and minerals properly. That means your ability to absorb nutrients like zinc can go down. Now think about what happens next. If zinc absorption drops, you may start seeing weaker keratin production, slower scalp repair, more inflammation around the follicle, and potentially a less favorable environment for hair growth. You may also notice brittle hair, slower regrowth, more shedding, rough skin, white spots on nails, poor wound healing, lower immunity, or even changes in taste and smell. Those are all clues that zinc may not be getting where it needs to go. And here's something else that's very important. Zinc plays a major role in balancing oil production and supporting the scalp microbiome. That matters because a scalp that is too inflamed, too oily, too congested, or too irritated is not an ideal environment for healthy follicles. When the scalp environment becomes dysfunctional, the follicle can become stressed. And a stressed follicle does not grow beautiful, resilient hair. It tends to miniaturize, weaken, and shorten its growth phase. Zinc helps support balance in that environment. It helps calm inflammatory pathways. It supports skin barrier function. It helps with tissue turnover, and it may be especially helpful for people dealing with dandruff-like flaking, scalp irritation, or excess oil combined with shedding. But again, the form matters, because if you're using a zinc form that your body doesn't absorb well, you may never get enough into the deeper tissues to make a noticeable difference. This is one reason why zinc picolinate has become so interesting. Many people notice better results when they switch from a lower absorption form to a more bioavailable one. Now, does that mean every other form of zinc is useless? No, not at all. There are other forms that can also be helpful. For example, zinc citrate is commonly used and can be reasonably well absorbed. Zinc gluconate is another common form, often used in over-the-counter products. Zinc sulfate has been used for a long time, but some people find it harsher on the stomach. Zinc oxide is often less ideal when the goal is systemic absorption because it may not absorb as efficiently as other forms. So if someone is serious about getting zinc deeply into the body for tissue level support, zinc picolinate often gets more attention because of its reputation for stronger absorption. And that matters for the hair follicle because the follicle is not just sitting on the surface. This is deeper tissue biology. The root of the hair sits within a very active microenvironment involving blood flow, stem cell signaling, immune regulation, connective tissue, hormones, and nutrient delivery. If the nutrient doesn't reach that environment, the follicle may remain undernourished even if your supplement cabinet looks impressive. Now, let's talk about zinc and DHT because this is where a lot of people become interested. DHT, or dihydrotestosterone, is a hormone that can contribute to follicle miniaturization in genetically sensitive individuals. This is especially relevant in pattern hair thinning. Zinc has been studied for its potential role in supporting a healthier hormonal environment and influencing enzymes involved in androgen metabolism. Now, I want to be very clear here. Zinc is not some magic overnight DHT blocker, but it can be part of a much bigger strategy to support the hormonal and inflammatory terrain that affects hair follicles. And that's often what natural hair support is really about. It's not about one miracle ingredient. It's about creating the right internal conditions so the follicle can function normally again. That includes nutrient sufficiency, lower inflammation, better insulin sensitivity, better circulation, healthier digestion, and proper mineral balance. Zinc fits into all of that. And if zinc picolinate gives you a better chance of actually absorbing and using that zinc, then it makes sense that it may be more effective than weaker forms for some people. There's another important angle here, and that's protein synthesis. Hair is primarily made of keratin, which is a structural protein. To build strong keratin efficiently, your body needs amino acids. Yes, but it also needs the mineral cofactors that help drive those protein building reactions. Zinc is one of them. So if zinc is low or poorly absorbed, you may not be assembling hair tissue as efficiently as you should. That can show up as weaker strands, more breakage, slower growth, and hair. That just doesn't feel as healthy or resilient. Some people are focusing only on external products. They're buying shampoos, scalp serums, oils, masks, and treatments. And while some of those can absolutely help, you have to remember this. Hair is built from the inside first. The follicle is being fed from your bloodstream, not from your shampoo. So if your internal nutrient delivery is weak, your external routine can only do so much. This is why deep nutrient absorption is such a big deal. You don't just want to take something for hair. You want to take something your body can actually use for hair. That is a completely different strategy. And let's go one layer deeper. There's a part of the body called the gut-skin-hair axis. This concept is becoming more and more important because we're realizing that digestive health, inflammation, immune activity, and skin function are deeply connected. If your gut is inflamed, irritated, or poorly functioning, your ability to absorb minerals goes down. And when your mineral absorption goes down, tissues with high turnover, like the scalp and follicles, are often some of the first to show signs. That's why some people can eat healthy and still have thinning hair. They may be eating the right foods, but not breaking them down and absorbing them well. This is one of the reasons zinc picolinate can be so useful. It may help bypass part of that absorption inefficiency by giving zinc in a form that is easier for the body to transport. And for someone whose follicles are starving for support, that can make a real difference over time. Now, I also want to mention something that people often overlook. Zinc doesn't work in isolation. This is very important. If you are low in zinc, there's a good chance you may also have imbalances in other nutrients that affect hair. For example, vitamin D, iron, magnesium, biotin, selenium, iodine, B vitamins, and trace minerals all play a role in follicle health. Protein matters too. And if you're under chronic stress, cortisol can also interfere with nutrient utilization and hair growth cycles. So while zinc picolinate may be an excellent tool, it works best as part of a bigger foundation. That foundation includes better digestion, better blood sugar control, lower inflammation, adequate protein, and the right overall nutrient density. Because the follicle doesn't just want one hero nutrient, it wants a stable environment. And zinc helps support that environment in a very powerful way. Now, here's another thing. Some people are unknowingly depleting zinc faster than they realize. If you consume a lot of sugar, refined carbs, processed foods, alcohol, or you're under long-term stress, your body can burn through minerals more quickly. If you have gut issues, malabsorption, frequent infections, poor sleep, or chronic inflammation, your zinc demand may also be higher. And if you're eating a lot of grains, legumes, or foods high in phytates without proper preparation, that can also reduce zinc absorption because phytates can bind minerals and make them harder to absorb. This doesn't mean those foods are automatically bad. It just means context matters. A person may be eating enough zinc on paper while still not absorbing enough in real life. That is the hidden problem. And when the body has to prioritize where nutrients go, cosmetic tissues, like hair, often get pushed down the list. Your body will always prioritize survival over appearance. So if zinc is limited, your body may use it for more urgent functions first, like immunity, repair, and metabolic control, leaving the follicle with leftovers. That's when hair quality starts to suffer. This is also why it can take time to see results. Hair is not like energy, where you feel something in a day or two. Hair responds slowly. You're working with a biological cycle. The follicle has to rebuild, stabilize, shift phases, and then produce a stronger fiber. That can take weeks to months. So when someone starts using a better absorbed form of zinc, they usually need consistency and patience. You're not forcing hair growth overnight. You're improving the conditions that allow better growth to happen. That's a very different mindset, and it's a much more realistic one. Now let's talk about dosage for a moment in a general way. More is not always better. This is extremely important with zinc. A lot of people think if some zinc is good, a lot must be better. Not true. Too much zinc for too long can create imbalances, especially with copper. And copper is also involved in hair pigmentation, connective tissue, and overall health. So this is not about megadosing blindly. This is about using the right form in the right amount with the right strategy. That's much smarter than just throwing huge amounts of minerals at the problem. And one more thing, if zinc makes you nauseous, that can sometimes happen when you take it on an empty stomach. That doesn't necessarily mean the supplement is bad. It may just mean you need to take it with food, or that your digestive system is a little sensitive. But in general, if someone is looking for a zinc form that may offer stronger tissue level delivery, zinc picolinate often gets singled out for a reason, because, again, the goal is not just ingestion. The goal is absorption. And when we're talking about follicles, absorption may be the difference between I took zinc and nothing happened and my scalp and hair finally started. So if you have been struggling with weak hair, excess shedding, slow regrowth, irritated scalp, or hair that just seems stuck in a low performance state, don't just ask whether you're taking zinc. Ask what form of zinc you're taking. That question alone may change everything, because the body is very specific. The follicle is very specific. And sometimes small upgrades in nutrient delivery create much bigger downstream effects than people expect. Zinc picolinate may not be flashy, it may not be trendy. But when it comes to deep follicle nutrient absorption efficiency, it may be one of the most practical upgrades you can make if your goal is to support healthier hair from the inside out. And once you understand that, you stop chasing random products and start focusing on what actually helps the follicle receive what it's been missing. A lot of people think taking zinc is automatically going to help their hair, but that's not always true. One of the biggest misunderstandings in natural hair support is assuming that if a nutrient is in your supplement, your body is automatically using it well. That's simply not how the body works. Hair follicles are not affected by what you swallow. They are affected by what your body can actually digest, absorb, transport, and deliver into the deeper tissues where growth is happening. This is why so many people say they've tried zinc before and didn't notice much difference. In many cases, the issue may not be zinc itself. The issue may be absorption. Hair follicles are highly active structures that need a steady flow of nutrients to stay in a healthy growth cycle. They require minerals, amino acids, oxygen, healthy blood circulation, and proper hormonal signaling. Zinc is one of the most important minerals involved in that process because it helps support cell division, tissue repair, protein synthesis, oil gland balance, immune, regulation, and inflammatory control. All of those functions directly affect the condition of the scalp and the strength of the follicle. But if zinc never gets absorbed properly through the digestive system, then the follicle may never receive enough of it to create a meaningful improvement. This is where many people run into problems without realizing it. They may be taking zinc in a form that doesn't absorb efficiently, or they may have digestive issues that reduce mineral uptake. Things like low stomach acid, gut inflammation, poor digestion, stress, processed foods, or imbalanced eating patterns can all interfere with how well zinc gets into the body. Even if a person is technically consuming enough zinc, that doesn't mean the scalp and follicles are actually getting nourished by it. The body has to break it down move it across the intestinal wall, circulate it through the bloodstream, and then deliver it into tissues that need support. If that chain breaks down anywhere, the hair may still suffer. That's why absorption matters so much more than people think. When zinc is well absorbed, it can support the follicle at a much deeper level. It may help calm inflammation around the scalp, support healthier skin turnover, assist with keratin production, and help maintain a better environment for strong hair growth. But if the zinc form is weak or poorly utilized, then a person may stay stuck in the same cycle of shedding, thinning, slow regrowth, or weak strands, even while taking supplements consistently. This also explains why some people spend money on expensive shampoos, serums, and scalp treatments, but still don't fix the root issue. Hair is built internally first. The follicle depends on internal nourishment far more than external cosmetic products. So if the body isn't absorbing minerals effectively, especially zinc, then the follicle may remain undersupported, no matter what is being applied to the scalp. That's why the real question is never just, are you taking zinc? The better question is, can your body actually absorb and use that zinc deeply enough to help the follicle? One of the main reasons zinc picolinate gets so much attention in hair and scalp support is because of its bioavailability. Bioavailability simply means how much of a nutrient your body can actually absorb and use after you take it. And this is a major issue that most people overlook when choosing supplements. They often compare labels, milligrams, or brand names, but they don't stop to ask whether the form of the nutrient is actually getting into the body efficiently. That matters a lot with zinc, especially when the goal is to nourish deeper tissues like the scalp and the hair follicle. Zinc picolinate is a form of zinc that is bound to picolinic acid. This matters because picolinic acid is something the body naturally produces, and it appears to play a role in helping with the absorption and transport of certain minerals. In simple terms, this pairing may make zinc easier for the digestive system to handle and easier for the body to move across the intestinal wall. That can give zinc picolinate a major advantage compared to forms that are more difficult to absorb or less efficiently utilized once consumed. This becomes especially important for people who have been taking zinc but haven't seen much benefit. In many cases, they may not be dealing with a total lack of zinc in their diet. They may be dealing with poor delivery. That means the nutrient is being consumed, but not enough of it is reaching the bloodstream and then traveling into the cells and tissues where it's actually needed. Hair follicles are very sensitive to this because they depend on a constant supply of usable nutrients to maintain growth, repair, and structure. If zinc does not arrive in a form the body can easily absorb, then the follicle may continue operating in a stressed, undernourished state. Compared to other common forms like zinc oxide or zinc sulfate, zinc picolinate is often seen as a more efficient option for deeper tissue support. Zinc oxide, for example, is frequently used in many lower cost supplements, but it may not absorb as effectively when the goal is systemic nutrient delivery. Zinc sulfate has also been widely used, but some people find it harsh on digestion or less comfortable to tolerate. Zinc gluconate and zinc citrate may still be helpful, but zinc picolinate often stands out because of how well it is believed to be utilized by the body. That difference in utilization can matter for the scalp in a very real way. Better zinc absorption may support healthier oil regulation, calmer inflammation, improved skin turnover, and stronger protein building activity inside the follicle. It may also help support the enzymes and repair mechanisms involved in producing stronger, healthier hair strands. This is why zinc picolinate is often viewed not just as another zinc supplement, but as a more strategic form for people who want to improve nutrient delivery where it counts. When the body is able to absorb zinc more efficiently, the scalp and follicle environment may have a better chance of functioning the way they're supposed to, especially when deeper nourishment is part of the missing link. When zinc is absorbed efficiently, it can do far more than just support general health. It can help create the kind of internal environment that hair follicles need in order to stay active, resilient, and productive. This is one of the biggest reasons zinc matters so much for scalp health and hair quality. Hair follicles are extremely sensitive to what's happening beneath the surface. If the scalp is inflamed, overly oily, congested, irritated, or nutritionally weak, the follicle can start to struggle. Over time, that can show up as thinning hair, slower regrowth, increased shedding, weaker strands, and a scalp that just doesn't feel balanced. Zinc plays a major role in helping correct many of those underlying conditions. One of zinc's most important functions is helping regulate inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation in the scalp can quietly interfere with healthy follicle behavior. It can affect the surrounding tissue, create stress around the follicle opening, and make the scalp less supportive of normal growth cycles. When zinc is available in a well-absorbed form, it may help calm some of that inflammatory stress and support a more stable environment for the follicle to function. That's important because a follicle that is constantly irritated or inflamed is less likely to stay in a strong growth phase for long. Zinc also helps support the sebaceous glands, which are responsible for producing scalp oil. When oil production becomes imbalanced, the scalp can become too greasy, too clogged, or too irritated. In some people, this creates buildup, flaking, discomfort, or an unhealthy scalp surface that affects the condition of the follicle over time. Efficient zinc absorption may help support better oil balance, which can make the scalp feel cleaner, calmer, and more supportive of healthy hair growth. A well-balanced scalp is not just about comfort. It creates a better surface and tissue environment for stronger follicles to stay active. Another major role zinc plays is in protein synthesis and tissue repair. Hair is made primarily of keratin, and keratin production depends on a healthy internal system that can build and maintain strong hair fibers. Zinc helps support the enzyme activity involved in those building processes. If zinc levels are low or poorly utilized, hair may grow more weakly, break more easily, or fail to reach its full thickness and strength. Better absorption means the follicle may have more of the mineral support it needs to produce healthier strands from the root. Zinc may also support hormone-related scalp stress, especially in people dealing with androgen sensitive hair thinning. While zinc is not a miracle fix, it can be part of a larger internal strategy to support a healthier hormonal and inflammatory environment around the follicle. This is why better zinc absorption can be so meaningful. It's not just about getting more zinc into the body. It's about helping the scalp and follicle receive the support needed for balance, repair, and stronger performance. When that internal environment improves, the hair often has a much better chance of becoming thicker, healthier, and more resilient over time.